All right, you've been scouting players for your season-long fantasy football team for months, and now you can put that knowledge to the test every week at DraftKings.com. They're America's favorite one-week fantasy football site where you could start the season by winning $2 million in 1 week. Rick, this is the biggest fantasy football contest ever.
It is by far. DraftKings.com. I am so honored that they are part of the Wooooo Nation podcast.
Here's what we're talking about. $10 million in prizes are up for grabs, including $2 million for first place and $1 million for second place. So even if you don't win, you can still win $1 million.
Think about that, folks. That's Conrad Thompson money.
Oh, my gosh.
$2 million. Conrad Thompson money. DraftKings.com. Wooooo Nation, get after it.
Just pick your players, pile up the points, pick up your cash. That's it. You've never experienced football like this before, and this isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. A few preseason games are still left to go before the regular season kicks off, so hurry to DraftKings.com right now and use that promo code. What is it, Rick?
It's FLAIR. Flair.
To play for free, win your share of the $10 million being given away on week 1. Just enter Flair for free entry now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. What is it, Rick?
It's FLAIR. DraftKings.com. Part of the Wooooo Nation.
A man who wears me 10 pounds of gold. The nature boy, Ric Flair.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself.
The 16-time heavyweight champion has arrived.
I've got the style and profile like never before.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again.
You're talking to the Rolex-wearing, diamond-ring-wearing, kiss-stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine-like, jet-flying, son of a gun. Woo!
This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
I'm the man. Ric Flair.
All right, it's time for another edition here of Wooooo Nation right here on Play.it. I am the co-host, the co-pilot, Conrad Thompson, but of course, the man of the hour is the nature boy, Ric Flair. Rick, we've got a great guest today.
We do. A man that is well-traveled, but obviously one of the most intelligent guys to ever participate in our business on so many different levels, from writing to performing to scripting to booking. He's done it all for the WWE and TNA. And I first met Bruce. It's Bruce Prichard. People should be able to figure that out. He's done so much in the business and been so successful and been such a big part of the business. But I first met Bruce after I won the NWA title in Houston, because he got his start, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, with the legendary Paul Bosch, who has passed away years ago. But Bruce, I think, pretty much booked the talent that came in out of Houston. And after Paul forgave the NWA when Harley missed the shot, he started using me again. For a while, was using Bockwinkel, but I think Bruce was influential in getting me involved in the Houston market, which was a great place to work, and Paul was a great payoff guy. So, hey, Bruce, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, champ. Just thank you very much for having me on, man.
Oh, thank you, man.
Introduction. Appreciate it.
What's up? What are you doing?
My main thing right now, I'm working for a friend of mine in the legal field, but, my passion is wrestling. I'm working with Booker T, who's got a wrestling school down here, and he puts on a television show locally. Kind of, you're talking about Paul Bosch, and he's doing the same thing Paul was doing. We're booking shows in Houston. We do television. We've got a huge announcement coming up that we're going to be moving our television from where it currently is to a cherry time slot on a local station here with a lot of backing, and we're going to be making some big moves. So I get to work with young talent that's hungry, that wants to learn, that goes out and busts their ass every single night. And it's a blast.
I have an idea where you're getting your money up. Just to give you the influence of Bruce Prichard on my life when I was with WWE, when Bruce was there. Bruce has a very, very close friend who's a multi-millionaire. Conrad, he's got your kind of bucks, okay? He's in the furniture business, right? So he puts on a tennis tournament every year, right? So Bruce says, hey, let's bring Flair in. He likes to play tennis, which I used to like to play when I was younger. And we'll have him play, with some kid and have a little fun. And it was a big tournament. Blake was there. The kid that just retired, what's his name? The handsome guy.
Andy Roddick.
Andy Roddick was there. I mean, some big time people there.
Pete Sampras, all those guys.
Yeah, Pete was there, and I'm good friends with McEnroe anyway, so I thought that'd be cool. So I get to this tournament, so Bruce goes, well, they want you to go out and play a set with this kid. It's like, okay, so it's a 12-year-old kid that just happens to be the state champion. Guess what? I didn't score a point. In front of 10,000 people, a 12-year-old kid kicked my ass. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but at least they didn't do to you what they did to Bradshaw. The kid beat Bradshaw while he held a bag in the other hand.
Well, I can believe that. I'm not Bradshaw, please. Jesus Christ. I couldn't find Bruce. I was going to kill him. 12 years old, Conrad. I couldn't return a serve.
That's
I
fantastic.
thought anybody could beat a 12-year-old kid. Not really.
Again, not really knowing, but I'm sure you're going to hear that phrase a lot throughout this. Rick saying, I could have killed Bruce for that.
Yeah, that's twice.
There were quite a few of those over the years.
You've already heard it twice. Once was the Carlito promo, which we talked about on the show last week. I'd had a big argument with Vince. And someone called in and asked that question, was I really mad at Carlito? And the answer was no. But Bruce Prichard came and got me. I was so mad at Vince I wasn't doing anything on the show. Bruce came and got me and said, hey, Vince wants you to cut a big promo on Carlito. And he was with Torrie Wilson, which, that wasn't really happening anyway. I just had to reaffirm that. Good Lord. So I gave Carlito the best of, and the next thing I found out, Bruce called me and said, God, Vince thought that was great. He's canceling the program with you and Kennedy for WrestleMania. It's you and Carlito. Well, we get to Chicago for WrestleMania, and 3 hours before the show, they canceled me and Carlito from the card at one The Vince gave me a lecture about going out there in a warm-up match and being a team player. Oh, my God. Jesus, what a bullshit statement. You need to lead by example. Go out there in a warm-up match at WrestleMania. Christ. Am I right, Bruce?
Oh, yeah. Hey, it was never boring.
Back then it wasn't, man. Jesus. Well, Bruce, tell me. Because these are questions that maybe Conrad's got it written down. I just have so much on my mind to ask you. I never understood. I do know that you went back and forth, but pretty much at the same pace that Heyman did with coming and going with the WWE. And I kind of figured it was like, familiarity breeds contempt, because back then there was only about 4 or 5 writers, correct me if I'm wrong, instead of 20, and Vince was on these guys so hard every day. I mean, we're talking about Pat, we're talking about Bruce, and was Ed there when you were there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, definitely. Ed's been there a while. I don't know how he's done it. Jesus. But back and forth, and I would see Bruce, and Bruce said, I'm going on vacation. And then he'd be gone for 3 months, and then they'd figure out they needed Bruce back, or vice versa. Bruce would be back, and then, he'd disappear again. So, fill me in on that, Bruce. What would happen? You guys just got to the point where you were having a hard time being creative every week, or what?
Well, you got to imagine, man. Imagine being with Vince for 22 years.
Yeah.
And, by being with him, man, it was day in and day out.
Yeah.
And after a while, you hit a wall. And you've got to step away. You've got to step away, smell the roses, and be able to try to come up with something different and creative and new. And the only way to do that a lot of times is get away from it.
Yeah.
and you have to completely just decompress. And then when you're back in it, you can go off for 3 months and get away from it. You come back, and within 3 or 4 days, you're swamped all over again. You're back in that rat race.
Well, when you were
intense would be an understatement.
So, Bruce, when you were in the role of Brother Love, were you writing at the same time?
When I was doing that, I was running the TV studio, and Vince and Pat. See, we didn't have the cable TV wasn't like it is now.
Yeah, it was network TV.
Yeah, it was syndicated. So,
yeah.
Vince and Pat wrote that for the most part, and I did all the cable stuff. But then I oversaw all the editing and oversaw the production of it. I was working behind the scenes there, too.
In the studio in Stamford.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you were on TV as Brother Love. Were you doing the house shows, too, as Brother Love?
When I was a good boy, and that would be my sabbatical. That would be my, Vince would let me go out for a couple of months, and, we'd shoot an angle where I could go and hit the house shows for 2 or 3 months, and that would be my break. That would be my prize.
I know that he tried to keep you. I know he tried to keep you and Brisco apart. But all that stuff legal in Oregon now. So if you guys had just gone to Portland once a year, been fine. Just kidding, Bruce. We can edit that out. I kidded. When Jerry Brisco and Bruce were together, it was always something. That was you. Bruce was there. This is a great story, Conrad, which I loved it when I heard it. When Bischoff said to Jerry Brisco, and of course, you can imagine Bruce stirring it up, that anybody could beat a 60-year-old man.
Wow. It was Jerry's birthday.
Yeah, okay.
I'll tell you where it was, man. We were in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the Radisson at the airport. And we're all sitting around, and Jerry's birthday, his actual birthday, we were in Montreal, and it was just me, Jerry, and Taker that went out. And then the next week, we celebrated it again. And then this was the third week, and now we had Bradshaw, we had Cena, we had Eric, we had a few more. And, Bradshaw and I are talking about how many times Briscoe's kicked our ass. And Bischoff kind of looks over at Jerry and says, and I'd sent Eric a text that said, okay, it's Jerry's birthday. He says, wow, he's 60 years old. Maybe now I can beat him. And, of course, me being me, I had to inform Briscoe of this text that was sent back to me, and I brought it up in front of everybody. And he looks over at Jerry and he says, he can't be that tough. We had a few adult beverages, and we told Jerry, I said, that's right, man, you can't be that tough. I mean, hell, Eric's black belt. He'll whoop your ass. And we just egged it on and egged it on and egged it on. And so Jerry goes to stand, and Eric stood up, and we did the circle of our chairs and everything. And Jerry goes to stand up, and Eric stands up, and Jerry double legs him. And Eric just basically sat right back down in the chair, and Jerry let him go. And I said, well, shit, the way I see that, Jerry, as a Bischoff should score a point on you because you couldn't take him down. The boy, smoke started coming out of Mr. Briscoe's ears. And we're telling Eric, come on, Eric, he's 60 years old. He's not that tough. And Jerry commenced to take Eric down and ride him. And you know the deal, man, where you cup your hand and you smother the other person?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Briscoe's doing this to Eric, and you can hear just that pop every time that Jerry would just slap him in the face and suffocate him.
Oh, yeah.
And take him down. And Jerry finally gets him down and has him hooked, and it's like, go on, Buzzy, tap out. And Eric taps out very politely.
Yeah.
Well, when he does that, we had just told the story about Jerry making Bradshaw tap out, and Bradshaw gave a dainty tap out. Briscoe looked at Bradshaw, says, tap out like you mean it, Texas pussy. So we all get in Eric's face and go, that ain't no tap out. Hell, tap out like you mean it, pussy. And he did. And he meant it. But
I know.
And then we proceeded to drink every single beer in the bar.
Yeah.
Every one.
Yeah. Something new. Listen, I've been on the other end of that Brisco riding you around and stuff, too. That's no fun.
No, it's not.
As a matter of fact, Conrad has seen our friend TJ try it with Brisco a couple times. So
yeah, he's still taking on all comers at the bar. Jerry Brisco,
yeah.
I mean.
Brisco's tough. What a great! We just had Jerry on the show talking about Piper, Bruce, and it's always nice to hear from him. He's had 4 heart attacks in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But he's doing good.
Roddy's one of those guys that, you know, Rick, man, if you can count 5 people, if you can count your friends on one hand in this business, you can call friends, that's pretty good. You're doing good. And I counted Roddy. And, we went back, and he was one of those guys that very few people could hang with. And I took, back in my younger days, I took great pride in I can hang with Roddy and do everything and go, drink for drink, whatever for whatever, and hang there until he puts you to bed. And
Roddy? No.
Yeah. Well, but the best part was is you fast forward to, I don't know what it was, and it had to be like 2002 or 2003, and both Hogan and Piper are back, and they were going somewhere else, and Jerry Brisco and I had, it was right about the time that Carlito had started because he brought Jerry a bottle of rum. And we're in Jerry's room, and we're drinking and various assorted other things, and Piper and Hogan come to the room to hang out and have a few party favors. And before you know it, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're putting Piper and Hogan both to bed.
Yeah.
And we just looked at each other and go, these were the guys that made everybody tap out back in the day, and now we're putting them to bed.
Yeah, Roddy was a walking, talking knockout punch. Oh yeah, I saw him put Mark Lewin to bed. The name a lot of the fans won't remember, but of course you remember him. I mean, God,
I remember Marky very well. I said, I remember Marky very well. He was, yeah.
Well, you're soon to be experiencing the Conradison, I heard in Huntsville.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, he
heard an awful lot about it.
He's a 2 bottle of Crown Reserve a night guy too. So that's on top of some beers. So I know you're a vodka guy, Bruce, but the Seaman can give you a run.
Well,
not only that, walking around this place, you can burn up with 3,000 calories. He's even got an elevator. I ride the elevator now. I quit walking.
Oh, my gosh. Bruce, we're excited to have you on the show, and a lot of longtime fans may remember this, and it seems like WWE has chosen to kind of scratch as much of this as they can, but The Undertaker is back on TV these days, and the very first time he was on TV, he had a different manager than Paul Bearer, isn't that right?
Oh, yeah. It was beautiful brother love, by God.
Yeah, before Paul Bearer, it was you, I remember.
Yes, and because the whole thing, man, I wanted to bring him in because I wanted to. I saw him when he first started, and Rick, you'll remember this name. He reminded me so much of Don Jardine.
Oh yeah, of course.
The way that he worked for a big man.
Yeah.
And I followed him through WCW, and Paul Heyman called me and said, "Hey, this guy's available. You interested?" And I went to Vince and said, "Hey, take a look at this guy." And at first blush, Vince was like, he looks like a tall basketball player. And then we had him set to come in and meet with Vince, and the night before, he had a match with Lex Luger on a WCW pay-per-view. Mark had a dislocated hip, but worked the match anyway because he knew that he was going to be meeting with Vince the next day. Well, he's working with Lex with the dislocated hip. It wasn't the best match in the world. And Vince didn't want to meet with him. And we finally got the two together, and as you know, Mark, man, he's magnetic in and of himself. And he convinced Vince that, hey, I'm your guy. And we took off from there.
All the ladies love Slick Rick. You know they love Wooooo Nation. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
All right, Rick, so we've been talking about Casper mattress for the last few weeks, and I'm anxious to get an update. It seems like every week you've got a new story about the Casper, and you can start creating new Casper stories right now at Casper.com. Of course, they've got great prices. Of course, they've got great technology. But now it's time for a testimonial from the Nature Boy. Nate, how you liking that Casper mattress?
Loving that Casper mattress. Loving it. And Wendy loves it more.
Well, what's not to love? It's a new hybrid mattress. They're actually combining premium latex foam with the memory foam, and they're doing it at an affordable price. Mattresses oftentimes cost more than $1,500, but not Casper mattresses. You can actually get a king-size mattress for just $950, all the way down to a twin-size mattress for only $500. But what's really cool about this, we talk about it every week, Rick, you've got hassle-free returns. It's free shipping, so they're going to get this thing to you free, and then if you don't like it, you've got 100 days to try it out. You'll never know if you just like it in a few minutes in the store. 100 days is a long time, isn't it, Rick?
100 days is a long time, but why would you ever return something you're having so much fun on?
Well, you're going to have You're going to have a lot of fun on this. It has just the right sink, just the right bounce. That's what happens when these two technologies come together, both latex foam and memory foam. And why wouldn't you do business with someone who makes their products right here in America? And best of all, right now, just because you listen to Woo Nation, you can get $50 off your order. You just go to Casper.com/Flair. Rick, how do we spell that?
You spell it Flair. Woo! And do you realize people that are buying Casper mattresses, if you had to buy them for the Conradison at Conrad Thompson's address, which is his home, you would have to spend $300,000 on $1,500 mattresses now. Give them the spiel, Big Daddy.
Now you don't have to, though. They're affordable. $500 for a mattress right now at Casper.com/Flair. Check that out. It's Casper.com/Flair, and you get an extra $50 off. Find out why it's the best mattress in the world. Find out why it's the one the Nature Boy uses. Find out everything you need to know at Casper.com/Flair.
Yeah. Woo! Flair. Casper mattresses. Woo!
This is Woo Nation with Ric Flair.
So at that point, Bruce, were you guys trying to find a person to fill the role of The Undertaker, or did that come about only once you met him?
No, that came about once they took a look at him.
So
he looked like an old-timey. He was doing. They brought him in and did the movie with Hogan, Suburban Commando.
That's right, yes, sir.
In the outfit that he wore, it made him look like an old-timey Undertaker. And that's how the gimmick. I mean, at the time, I just wanted to bring him in as Kane, this killer, you know. And the Undertaker evolved, and he's made it all his own.
Yeah, I mean, it's the greatest. It's the greatest gimmick in the world. And the guy, he lives it. He's a little looser now about it, but I mean, Jesus, back in the 90s and that, and from the time it first started, I mean, he was the Undertaker. I mean, I'll tell people this all the time. You would see the merchandise big time in the States, but when you went over to Europe, everybody was dressed up like the Undertaker. Am I saying that right, Bruce?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. There was 300 people standing outside the building when the Undertaker closed. I mean, the hats, the coats. Yeah, I don't know what his merchandise checks were back then, but I'm sure they were very good. They were healthy.
Well, it's a really out there character, certainly by today's, standard of what wrestling is. How does that come about, Bruce, when you first say, hey, he kind of looks like an old-timey Undertaker? Do you guys sit and somebody sketches it out, and then you talk through, he'll sit straight up, and we'll put some eye makeup on him? What does that kind of look like back in the day? What would a creative process for a character like the Undertaker look like?
Well, we had a whole creative department, and, we would give them the idea, kind of an overall idea, and then they would sketch it out. They would meet with the talent, they'd take a look at them, and sketch out their outfits, but the overall look, a lot of times that came from Vince, that came from, his messed up head, and then it evolves. You get him out there in the ring, you figure out what works, and a lot of that was Taker doing his thing. And I was a big fan of Jason and the guy. What the hell was his name? You remember Jeff Van Camp, Rick?
Yeah.
Who did the humongous gimmick?
Yes.
He wore the hockey mask like Jason, and this guy would do the sit-up. And I saw that, and it was just the shrieks in the arena when he would do it. And pitch that to Taker, and he did it, and it was the same feeling because you got this monster who's dead, and he pops up, and all of a sudden turns his head, and it was just magic. But Taker, man, Mark was able to just make that character his own, become that character. He believes in it, which made everyone else believe in it.
Yeah.
There was no doubting.
Well, you know what's funny? I mean, I think, and I wrestled him in the 90s, and then, of course, I wrestled him at WrestleMania and a couple other times in the 2000s, like 2004 or 5, whatever it was. 2002, actually, was...
18 was 2. That's right.
Yeah, that was 2002. That was in Toronto, right?
Yes, sir.
And that match really, got me back up and running in terms of my self-confidence. But I thought that Mark's work, that he got better, up until a couple of years ago. He just continued to get better every year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't understanding his character. It's just that, you have to, he didn't have a luxury every day of working with The Rock and Austin and guys that could really go. You know what I mean? He was stuck in, the situation that we've all been at times. But, I mean, if you look at Mark, I mean, he wasn't diving over the top rope 20 years ago and doing stuff like, like the stuff he does with Shawn and Hunter, and he did it with, I can't remember, I think he did it with Brock, but, diving over the top rope, running across the ring, 6'9", 280 pounds, or 6'10". You just don't see that from a guy, and he's, bouncing around like Rey Mysterio. The walking the rope was nothing, and that's just a small part of what makes him so great. And, of course, then the timing, the issues of timing with that, when he's laying down and sits up. And, I mean, I was with Conrad last year, and Bray Wyatt went into that reverse thing that he does, right. And the Taker sat up, and I about died. I mean, that was great. And the timing was phenomenal. And they had a hell of a match last year, I thought. I didn't get nearly the recognition it should have gotten, in my opinion. And I'm a big fan of Bray Wyatt, too. That kid's great.
I was just going to say, man, there's another stud.
Yeah, that's Rotundo's son.
He's unbelievable. He's part of the new crop.
You knew that was Mike Rotundo's son, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Third generation, too. I mean, Blackjack's grandson.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a family business all the way through.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, he's just one. And the other, Bo, is great, too. And now Mike's youngest daughter is going to get into the announcing up in NXT. So,
yeah, we had heard she had a tryout, but you're hearing maybe she'll be in an announcer role?
Well, I was there when she tried out for it. I would assume she's a beautiful girl, and she knows a lot about the business. I can't see why she wouldn't get it, but the answer to the question, I don't know if she got it or not, so I'm just...
Rick, who would let their daughter get into this business?
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying to myself right now every day. Bruce, I'm just so glad she's on the main roster now. Are you kidding me? For 2 years, Dad, when, Dad, when? Actually, I can... don't call, don't say anything. When? Now it's after the show. How was the match? How'd it look? Everything okay? Yes. Yeah.
Well, she is her father's daughter.
Oh, thank you. We just tried too hard, I think.
So going back a few years, Bruce, back when you first made your way to the WWF and started working for Vince McMahon, how did that come about? I know you had done some stuff with Bosch and some stuff with the UWF, but then eventually you make the move to New York. How did that first encounter with Vince go, and how did you come about to be a full-time player there?
Well, I was working for Bill Watson, for Paul Bosch in Houston, and Bill wanted to expand. And during that time, Bill was trying to sell his company to Jim Crockett. And the few times that I had worked for Crockett, there just wasn't it just didn't work. I mean, I say it didn't work, but Jim and I had no rapport. I didn't know Jim Crockett. So at the time, Eddie Gilbert was working Mid-South, and Eddie told me he was going up to meet with Vince, with Missy, and he says, would you ever be interested in going to New York? And I said, well, hell yeah. And he gave Vince my name and number, and I ended up calling Vince. First thing out of his mouth was, would you consider relocating to Stanford? I didn't even know where Stanford was. And I said, yes. And I, just kept on it. And finally, when Watts sold to Crockett, Paul Bosch didn't want to have anything to do with Crockett. And we opened up dialogue with Vince. And I was kind of part of that deal, and I didn't want to be. My whole thing was I wanted to break away. I wanted to go somewhere on my own. I'd been in Houston since I was 10. I was 24 years old, so I was an old man. I needed to break away. And Vince brought me up, and for the first month, I didn't have a job description. He brought me up and said, take a look around, work in promotions, work in marketing, work at TV, worked with him and Pat on the booking end. He says, figure out what you want to do. And I fell in love with the TV, and because that's what I did in Houston as well, was I loved producing the TV show and putting it together, and that's where I kind of ended up. So it was just, it was one of those deals, man, perseverance, and I never gave up, wouldn't take no for an answer, and kept pushing and pushing and pushing until he finally said, come on up.
Well, Bruce, you brought a lot to the table. I mean, it goes without saying that you're one of the most intelligent guys to ever work in this business. And I, as I said earlier, I just, back then as it is now, but there's just so many more people involved. The guy is he's so intense, and then, ultimately the product is so good and so successful, but he's a very intense guy. And I don't know how you guys could do it. I mean, I had a hard time one time. Bruce, you were there when he made me, and we were in Gulfport, Mississippi, and he made me talk to the empty building at 11 o'clock at night about Elizabeth. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
That was great.
I'd already made 3 TVs. He waited the whole arena, and he wanted me, the idea was that I was talking about how I was with Elizabeth before Savage and all that, but I was talking to an empty building. Jesus Christ. Again, do it again. Okay, Jesus.
That was the other thing when I came to TNA and I would ask Ric to do it again. And just one time, he'd look at me and go, "You're not in the WWF anymore. You're out there. It's fine. It's great."
I'd say it again. I couldn't hear it. Do what?
When I would ask you to do something over in TNA, and you would go off, "You're not Vince. This is not the WWE. It's good enough. It's great. Just leave it alone."
Yeah, one take Nate's, man. I don't need to be doing it for 3 other guys that can't do theirs.
Well,
that's why you were with them.
I know. Hey, you know what's funny, Bruce? Is I tell people I didn't always agree with what was going on, but it was that was an easy gig. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to mention this, Bruce, because I was going to ask you anyway, but Bruce had gone through so much with his wife's cancer and all that, and I think that's the reason you left the WWE the last time, right, was to be home for a while?
Yeah, that was, towards the end, there were a lot of rumor and innuendo a lot of times when I would go away.
Yeah.
And now I can knock on wood, and my wife is healthy now.
Yeah.
But I never wanted that public, and I always would, I would rather have people whispering about me than talking about her.
Yeah, no, I know, and I hope if you don't like me, if you don't like what I just said,
no, I'm fine.
I was so glad that you found me. I mean, I knew about it, as did his close friends, but
yeah,
the day he showed up at TNA, I was so glad because I said, God, there's no way that this guy isn't going to turn this around. But man, that was a ship that had already sailed. I mean, Bruce, you have to admit it was rough there. Holy cow. Not rough.
It was rough.
Huh?
It was rough because, unfortunately you didn't have the backing, and you didn't have the tools to turn around. You had the talent.
Yeah.
You had the knowledge.
Yeah, but I think one of the most difficult things for me was, as nice as she is, and she is a nice person, Dixie's communication to the talent and what was actually going on was just light years apart from what was really taking place. Would you agree with that, Bruce?
Oh, wholeheartedly. It was rough.
I mean, Bruce could tell
right there.
Bruce could tell somebody something, and in that role, it should be, in a role that I've worked under, and it should be like that. This is the bottom line. It's it. But then, Bruce had to deal with Hulk, and on came Eric, and then in came Russo, and Bruce has got all this to deal with, and then he's got Dixie out in the parking lot, and I don't know why to this day she likes to pull the talent aside, or the talent will pull her aside, whichever way it goes, and they'll make a deal with her, and of course she doesn't relay it to Bruce. Well, Dixie told me this, and I mean, I've been through that with her. You know what I mean? It's just strange, and it's not malicious. It's just a very difficult way to do business after you've been in the professional atmosphere of the WWE. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's fair, and you really just summed it up, because it was difficult to do your job when after you would put something into motion, something else would be put into motion, and you never even knew about it until it was way after the fact or too late.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, what's this? Oh, well, I talked to him, and don't worry about it. Wait a minute, I got to balance the budget here. I got to do all this stuff. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
don't worry about it.
Bruce, do you have an example of a story like that where you were kind of heading in one direction and found out after the fact that was no longer the direction?
Wow. Unfortunately, there were too many to even remember. But a lot of times there were things that, to sum it all up, out of, let's say, 50 talent on the roster, you had, well, when I started, I want to say there were 7 or 8 different versions of contracts, and they were all completely different. And there were instances where talent was guaranteed 150 dates, but they were only able to work 70, because they only ran 70 events. They got a contract for 150.
Wow.
There were just so many things like that unfortunately, there were different people at different times in that position that things got grandfathered in, and, the right hand a lot of times didn't know what the left hand was doing, and people would just go into business for themselves. And then it was challenging, to deal with an office in Dallas, Texas, that's an energy company that builds power plants, that doesn't understand the wrestling business or the entertainment business.
Yeah.
It doesn't understand the nuances. To them, an independent contractor is a plumber. So when one independent contractor is gone, you just replace them with another. That's not how you do it with talent. They may be independent contractors, but they're talent. Ric Flair goes, I can't just replace him with another independent contractor.
Yeah.
And have the same thing.
Yeah, Bruce, let me ask you a question. I'm trying to figure out, because I hear about it, Conrad is on top of it a lot, and then I hear about it if I'm around the guys, which I am a fair amount of the time. Like I'm, going to New York tomorrow with Conrad for the whole week to see my daughter for SummerSlam. But is there I'm trying to figure out, how does Jarrett keep getting back there? Wasn't he on the show the other night?
Yeah, you got me.
I mean, what is the deal? I mean, after all the things up and down and the stuff with Kurt and Dixie and, I don't even begin to know. Personally, I like Jeff, but I just know that there's been, some misgivings in the way that place was run for a long time. And some people made a lot of money, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's a head scratcher.
Yeah.
That's really a head scratcher.
Yeah, I see that. And Conrad, what's your take on that?
I don't have anything nice to say, so let's ask a TNA question. Bruce, you and Rick were in a great segment called TNA Gut Check once, and the talk online is that on the fly, Rick kind of went against the grain and changed his vote. Is that the real story, or what really happened in that gut check?
That's a real story.
Yeah, tell me I vaguely remember that. Oh, they wanted me to say something about someone I didn't think was good enough, right?
And then on the fly, supposedly you changed it.
But again, and keep in mind, too, that the direction that was given to me, the direction that was given to Rick, the direction that was given to all of us in that segment was be real, shoot with it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, you tell somebody, be real. We don't want to know what you're going to do. Just go out there and shoot with it. But by the way, here's what we want you to do. So this kid, we had no intention, really, at the time, of giving the kid a contract and everything. He just the in-ring work was not there, and the promo work we'd seen with him, it just wasn't great. So we say no, and he gets a chance to turn it around, and there was a yes vote and a no vote, and I'm going to give the final vote. Well, Rick changes his vote.
Yeah, I said he was terrible, right?
Yeah, well, first you said he was terrible. He cut a promo, and you said, you know what, sir, I changed my opinion. Yes.
No,
so I went with it.
Now say it again. I said he was terrible before he cut the promo?
You said he was terrible, and you voted no.
Yes.
Then the kid and Al voted yes, and it was up to me. And the kid cut a promo to try and, here's your 30 seconds, convince us to give you a contract. And once he cut his promo, you grabbed the microphone and said, you know what? That was a hell of a promo. I changed my vote. Yes.
Yeah, I do remember. Okay, now I got it.
It was something like the guy had a death in the family and really did a good job with the promo, dedicating it to him or something.
It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah, to his dad.
And so the joke online is the kid who won it couldn't even legally work in the States. He didn't have a visa. Is that true?
Exactly, yeah.
Jesus, oh, God. I didn't know that.
That's fantastic.
Oh, my God. Well, funny, Bruce, so tell me something. I could talk to you all day long. How much fun was it back in the beginning working with Austin and Rock?
Oh, my God. It was, that was a time. And,
let me add 2 more words.
Okay.
Or 3 or 4 more words. And knowing that you were kicking WCW's ass.
It was great. It was great. But it was just so much fun because you had guys that were hot, and it was in seeing seeing Rock especially from the standpoint, I've told the story a million times, but, Rock and Hunter didn't really care for each other.
Oh, I know.
There was a.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do right now.
I don't know now, but I tell you, at the time, there was that professional jealousy that, it was brutal. And they would go out live, and Rock would stand there, and he would, do what was written on the piece of paper for him to do. Hunter would go out and eat him alive, going off script.
Yeah.
And Rock would come back and bitch, and goddamn, this guy's going off, and I'm doing what I'm told, and I said, you know what, man? It's live.
Yeah.
And he looks at me. I said, if you can take the ass chewing when you come back, it's live. What are they going to do? I said, but here's the trick. It better be good enough, because if you're going to go off script and you're going to do something and it's great, then by God, you're a genius. If it's not, you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
And he went out, and they would spar with each other out there, verbally, go completely off script, and the audience, man, they felt it because it was real.
Yeah.
There was animosity there. There was professional jealousy there. And these two guys didn't like each other. They worked beautifully in the ring. They were tremendous professionals. But you don't have to like somebody to work great with them.
Yeah.
And that was the magic. It was great.
Yeah. I think that thing that exists. I know I never knew. I can never tell anymore. Sometimes if you can fake me out, you're pretty good. But I don't think that Cena and The Rock are ever going to go to dinner together either.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Conrad?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the whole behind the scenes, but certainly it seems like at times they'd get a little stiff with each other with the promos to their WrestleMania shows.
Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining, but boy, it was pretty strong.
But it sold tickets.
Yeah, it did. But I can remember one time they had a segment out there, because I used to watch it, and the segment was unbelievable, but nobody watched. I mean, it kind of got repetitious. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they would do things, and sometimes the verbiage was so close to what it was the next week. Remember that? Because they worked 2 WrestleManias in a row, back to back, correct?
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's hard to create, that kind of intensity twice. You know what I mean? So yeah, I didn't know, but
so Bruce, recently.
Just the both of them so talented, and Cena. I mean, The Rock. Look at him now. God, I'm so happy for his success. And it couldn't happen, in my opinion, to a nicer guy.
And, a hard-working son of a gun, he deserves everything he gets.
Yeah, he does, everything. And John, too. I mean, John, I'm sure John doesn't have to work another day, but John loves the business. And he's, he's there, he perseveres. And, Conrad and I talk about it, and Conrad will text me and say, man, he ain't going to break your record, man. I'll go, Conrad, what's the finish? And Conrad will give me 30 different resolutions. And so now we fly in tomorrow to celebrate not only our an hour with you, Bruce, but to start our weekly shenanigans before SummerSlam. And, of course, Conrad will have already booked Monday TV.
Nice.
So, Bruce, but while I got a guy like you with your level of intelligence and your background, who's winning, Undertaker or Brock?
To me, there's only one finish.
Who's that?
God, to me, it's Taker.
Okay. Who's winning between Cena and Rollins? Mark these down now.
I'm writing them down. I got you.
So Bruce Prichard is calling Undertaker. Thumbs up, correct?
I'm saying Undertaker, thumbs up. Now,
okay.
You asking me what would I do or what will happen?
What will happen?
No, what will happen?
God, man, I would hope they go with Rollins. I would do Rollins, and by God, you know what? I'll go with Rollins because it's different, and I hope. Then again, that's probably why they'll go with Cena.
Yeah, you're saying Rollins because why take the heat?
I would do Rollins, but I think they're going to go with Cena.
Well, that gets heat with me. Conrad had a different version. There's going to be a run-in.
Well, I mean, all of a sudden last night, we're taping this on Tuesday. Of course, you're listening on Wooooo Wednesday. But, last night, as we're watching, all of a sudden, Cena starts to involve, Triple H in his promo. So I couldn't help but think maybe that's kind of like the way out. Triple H can have a little interference. That sets up shows for them down the road. But, that's me armchair quarterbacking. What the hell do I know?
Yeah, well, I don't have a dog in the fight either. I like them both, but I can't see anybody taking the steam off Rollins because of the 3 guys that came up together. I'm not including Bray Wyatt. I'm talking about the Shield.
Right.
The guy with the most steam and the best performer of the 3 is Seth.
Yes.
And by far the best talker. I hope you guys would agree with that,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
The Nature Boy is going to take a quick trip on Space Mountain. You better be here when I get back.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again. This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
I mean, Seth has got it down pretty good, man. He's starting to really come across as confident. That segment last night was a damn good segment.
That kid is a stud. I enjoy. You get to the point. We reach a certain point, but where you kind of want to fast forward through certain things. I enjoy the hell out of watching him perform.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, he's right there with Orton. I mean, in terms of in my there's three guys, and I'm really of that style. I think Seth Rollins is another Randy Orton. The body, all around work rate, entertainment wise, in terms of his interview, he's not loud. He's not like a guy screaming like me or like Roddy and that. But he's getting more confidence in his interview every time I hear him talk, and he's doing great. And to me, he's going to, because Randy, Randy's begging for a way to get the Shawn Michaels deal and take off every summer. So I just can't see him taking the steam off of Seth Rollins. I mean, what would you do with the next show? Do it again?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, you got Seth who's hot right now. And he's hot because, man, he squeaked by Lesnar. He squeaked by, but yet at the same time, he's beating guys. So
yeah.
You know he can do it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty behind having it. He's a beatable heel.
Yeah.
He's also a credible heel.
Yeah. But I don't think he's beatable too much yet, because that's how I know we all say that everybody's batting 500 there, but that seems to be after a longer period of time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All of a sudden, you're going to have John Cena with 2 belts, which John doesn't need, or you're going to have Seth with 2 belts. And I mean, I just, I could think about it, and maybe I could figure a way out of it. If it was me, they would have me defend 1 belt in the first hour and the second belt in the third hour. Because I was that good.
They figure out a way to do. They got 3 hours. They figure out a way to get 3 in there.
And if Bruce was booking, Bruce would have you have 5 in a promo in the second hour, getting ready for the third match.
Bruce, when did the booking style change? Going back to when you first started with the WWF, everything was kind of pre-taped, and it seemed like there was more of a long-term plan. And then I guess maybe during the Monday Night Wars, that's when the kind of booking on the fly and the last-minute changes started to happen. When do you remember that shift really happening, and then how did that affect you, when you were involved in the creative side?
Well, I would say, mid to late 90s is when it changed. But at the same time, it was, I think Vince has always done things last minute and just gone with the flow. But I loved it. I love live television. I love live television because there is absolutely nothing that can go wrong.
Yeah.
If the ring collapses and the building gets set on fire, it was meant to happen. And by God, you just go with it. And that's the mark of a true pro. And that's what I love about live TV, because you just get to go with it. You're working with so many unknowns and elements that you can't control. And give me live TV any day of the week. It's just you don't want things to be predictable. You want people to wonder and do like you're doing, where you're sitting there going, "Okay, what are they going to do with Seth and Cena?" You want people to wonder and not be able to pick it.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of our business when it becomes so predictable that I know, okay, I'm going to turn it on and Cena's going to win. Next. I want to turn it on and think Cena's going to win and have him lose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I just think the people will be interested. I'm not just looking after the podcast, but Bruce, you've got a great opinion and a great mind. One of my favorite moments, Conrad, was I got the TV one day, and Bruce said to me, "Hey, you're working with Hulk in Seg 1 and Austin in Seg 10. And I said, "Great. No problem, man. You really going to use me twice?" Thank you. Do you remember that, Bruce?
Exactly.
Yeah, I loved it, man. I got to work with Hulk the first Seg or second Seg, and I'm trying to think. And then Austin late in the show, and then I got to work with Steve, and that's, before Steve took his sabbatical.
So, Bruce, Hulk's been picked on a lot lately online. We don't want to necessarily pile on, but he does kind of get a bad rap in WCW for invoking his creative control clause and kind of putting Nitro into a tailspin with, "That doesn't work for me, brother." Did you hear much of that during the Hulkamania era of the WWF, or did that, you assume, just came later in WCW?
Well, I got to tell you, man, every time that I've ever worked with Hulk, And he's been easy as Sunday morning. Now, no different than any other talent. They're going to come up and say, hey, man, I don't feel that. And I think it just comes with how you deal with that from there. I never would go into a situation and say, this is what we're going to do, without having a B and a C plan behind that. You know what? I don't really feel that right now. Okay, how about this? What if we got to it this way? And sometimes by having that B and that C plan, you may be able to bring them back around to the A plan to say, well, wait a minute, that might be a much better idea than I originally thought.
Yeah.
But, with Hulk early on in the 80s, man, he dealt with Vince. And they got together and they mapped things out. And sometimes it was great, sometimes it wasn't great. But they had their ways of working it out. When Hulk came back in 2000 and stuff, I worked with him primarily. And I got to tell you, he was pretty easy to work with.
It was
because,
difficult.
Again, I never went in with that, this is what you're going to do and this is it. It's this or the highway. I never went into anything with anybody like that, except Ric Flair. But, no.
Well, that's because I always said yes. I didn't even ask you. I just assumed I was doing the job.
Yeah. No, but I always would go in and say, hey, here's what we have in mind. What do you think? Because he's the one that's going to have to do it. The talent's the one that has to go out there and perform it. And if they don't feel it and don't feel it's right, I'd like to think that they'd say so and, make it right.
Was there somebody you were working with back then who was difficult? Since everybody always says Hogan was the most difficult, but you didn't really experience that, was someone difficult that you can remember?
Speak ill of the dead, but Warrior could be difficult. Randy Savage was challenging. I don't know that Randy, I've heard horror stories about Randy being difficult, but I always got along with Randy too, and it was once you talk it through, he was fun, but he was challenging because he would pick everything apart.
Yeah.
But it was some guys would do that, and some guys, and then there are the guys who just go, okay, whatever you want, and go do it.
Hello.
Oh, we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to hear my name at the end of that sentence.
No, you know what? But Rick, seriously, you would speak up.
Yeah, but I never said no. That's why Hogan made $25 million and I made $500,000.
No, I think you sometimes were too giving, but also to say you would speak up. You spoke up to me.
No,
say, hey,
I spoke. Let's get things clarified. I would say to you, Bruce, how long have I got to pull this off?
Yes.
10 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes?
Because you looked at it as a challenge a lot of times, too.
Yeah, but I don't think that I can honestly say that about myself, with the exception of not getting along with Eric and Russo, at different times. And Russo just, I think Russo we got off to a bad start because he knew that Cornette and I were friends, right? So he just said to me, I know you're not going to like me. And I said, why? He said, because we're good friends with Jim Cornette. I said, what's that got to do with you and me?
Right.
That was our first conversation. I'm not kidding you. So next thing I knew, I was buried out in the desert somewhere.
Well, let's talk about Russo a little bit, Bruce. He gets a lot of credit for the Attitude Era stuff, but the comeback is always, well, he needed an editor. You saw that in WCW. Vince Russo needs an editor, and Vince was an editor. What was your perspective at the time?
Well, we all had editors, and that editor was Vince McMahon. Nothing got through, nothing got approved or killed without Vince's blessing, Vince McMahon's blessing. And a lot of the stuff that was done was Vince Russo was a different voice pitching to Vince McMahon. He may have been pitching a lot of the same old, tired ideas, if you want to call it that, but it was a different voice, and it worked. But at the end of the day, you've got one guy in charge there. The buck stops at Vince McMahon, and he ain't afraid to step up, and kill something or endorse something. So that's the big difference. It wasn't You know, it wasn't me. It wasn't Vince Russo. It wasn't Brian Gewirtz. It wasn't any of us on our own. It was Vince being able to take those ideas and either let you run with it, edit it, whatever it is. But he's the gatekeeper, and nothing's going on television without his blessing.
Yeah, I said that the other day. Make no mistake, whether it was Bruce or anybody else that came up with a game plan, it ran through Vince for final approval. Is that a fair statement, Bruce?
Everything.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, now
the same way. It's the same way today.
Yeah, I would assume it is. I mean, I haven't been there, but I would assume. You know, I still hear everything, and you can tell when Vince McMahon has his fingerprints on things.
Yeah,
and it still to this day feels that, you know, he's given the nod.
Yeah,
and you look at every writer, booker, whatever you want to call them, creative person. I don't know what the hell they call them these days. You know, you have good runs, you have bad runs, and I think, knock on wood, you know, for the most part, I had some pretty good runs for, you know, different periods of time. You know, I had some that, you know, there was a period when during the Vince's federal trial that we couldn't bring in any talent because Vince didn't feel that it was fair to the talent with his future unknown to bring somebody in and ask somebody to sign a contract with us when he didn't know what was going to happen with him. And so we were handcuffed and handicapped considerably because here's your roster. We've got to be real careful what we do here. We can't upset the parent teachers council, or I don't know, whatever the hell they were, the PTC. And we had to be very careful with everything that we did. So it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of handcuffs on us. We had a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
Bruce, back when that trial was going on, a lot of the WWE folks who worked in the office have said in, you know, shoot interviews and various forums that they were nervous about their job. Is that something you thought was going to happen, like, hey, we're done? Or did you have confidence that Jerry Jarrett could step in and run the ship while Vince was away?
Okay, so you asked two different questions there. Was I nervous? No. Was I confident that Jerry Jarrett could run anything? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'd forgotten. Now that you bring it up, where did Jerry Jarrett come in, Conrad?
Well, I mean, Bruce probably knows better than I, but the story is that Jerry Jarrett got the call from Vince when Vince thought, hey, this may not be going my way, and if I'm away, I need somebody who can run the territory, so to speak.
God, I never heard that. I did hear that now, but I'd have to agree with Bruce. Not a chance.
But
no, not a chance. Not a chance, Jerry. No, I don't know how Jerry ever ran Memphis in the territory that he ran, other than the fact that he had creative bookers and hot shot booking that only would work in one area, and that being that Mid-South area.
Yeah.
Hey, let me see if I can find a shovel. We just buried Jerry Jarrett. He's gone.
No, I'm speaking the truth. I'm not burying him.
No, I'm going to say the same thing. I like Jerry a lot personally, but you can't run Memphis and compare that to running the WWE. And I think that's a very fair assessment.
Well, creatively, you know, it's probably a call he made from a financial standpoint. Wouldn't you guys agree? Because everybody says that, you know, there's no money to be made in Memphis, but Jerry Jarrett took care of himself. So it was probably a call based on financial reasons. Or am I way off on saying that?
What call?
I don't think without Jerry Lawler, he would have had nearly the success that he had. And I'm hoping that Jerry Lawler made a lot of money.
Yep. But Jerry Jarrett coming in, Jerry Jarrett was one of several that Vince went to seek out as a consultant and to try and get a different head and a different viewpoint in. But Jerry Jarrett, once he got in and once he, you know, Vince was exposed to him, or Jerry was exposed to Vince, put it that way, there was never that intent to, oh my God, if something happens,
okay,
Jerry Jarrett's going to run this thing. I think that the intent was simply that if something were to ever happen to Vince, that several different people would put in key positions to just come together. And we had that opportunity to do it, and I think we did pretty well while Vince was going through his neck surgery at the time, or his back surgery, and preparing for the trial. And during the trial, we did run it without Vince. So to that point, it was simply Vince making sure that he had the right people in the right positions all throughout the company, which goes to, as much as you hear Vince being the end-all, be-all there, which he is, that if something, God forbid, were to happen to him tomorrow, that the company would go on and it would be fine. Would it be as good? Probably not.
I'm one of those people. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
But would it go on and thrive? Yeah, I definitely think it would.
Yeah, I think that if something happened to Vince, and God forbid, that the numbers would drop a little bit. I don't mean the numbers on ratings. I'm talking about the stock.
Yeah.
Because I think that I don't think a lot of people are as aware of just how entrenched Stephanie and Hunter are right now. I mean, it's to the point where Hunter for sure, Stephanie at least one day, Monday, Tuesday on the road, and then down to Orlando for Tough Enough, and then Hunter, as an example, every third week, NXT taping. And like this week, they've got NXT sold out on Saturday. They've got SummerSlam sold out on Sunday. They have Raw sold out on Monday.
Yeah,
and then they're going to go to Providence for SmackDown. And then they go back down. Hunter goes back down for NXT taping in 2 weeks. And believe it or not, because I talk to Hunter all the time, when he's not on the road, and this is a guy that he's got to have that 2-hour workout every day. He's miserable. He's on Vince's schedule. He works out at 11 o'clock at night now because he's in the office, and so is Stephanie. Because this guy has always pushed Steph in that direction, but he's making sure that Hunter's got a grasp of it too. Would you? I mean, I keep using that statement, but that's my take on it anyway.
Well, okay. Here's the thing that I get into when I do a lot of these interviews and things, because I have no dog in the fight. I'm not there. Would I love to be there? Yeah, but that's not why I'm saying this either. When I hear the stuff about, Hunter's only there because he married into it. Well, long before Hunter,
that's a bullshit story.
Long before Hunter and Stephanie were Hunter and Stephanie, Paul Levesque was one of the first guys to show up at the building. He was sitting in on production meetings. He was offering up ideas. He has been a student of the business from day one. If he had never even crossed paths with Stephanie in any way, shape, or form, he would be deserving of the spot that he is in now, because he worked his ass off to get there, and he's good. Okay, and people want to say what they will, but these are people that have never met him, that have never been around him and watched him work from the inside. Okay, from the outside looking in at him, you go, oh well, God, it's easy for him. He's married to the boss's daughter. They drive around and. That's
a bullshit statement too. I hear that too. It pisses me off when people say that, because they don't get this guy's work ethic, man. Jesus.
No, and he was doing it long before. Okay, that's the part that you sit there and look at. And he always was one of those guys who would sit back quietly, but he would always offer suggestions. He was always out there plugging, and he was always trying to do something more. He didn't have to show up early and go to production meetings. He asked if he could. He didn't have to watch other guys' matches and offer them help. He did it because he loved it, and he still does it. And I just look at NXT and the developmental system. And when we started that in the studio, in the warehouse with my brother training guys, and to where it is now is amazing. Because it is the future. It's the only future that we've got right now. But here's a guy that worked his ass off as a talent in the ring and has worked to learn the business and has got his hands dirty doing it. And for people to sit back that have never met him, never met you, never met me, and judge based on what they perceive reality to be is bullshit.
Yeah, you know what the moral of the story is, Bruce?
What's that?
Well, number one, he was working for Gold's Gym in New Hampshire. You knew that, right?
Yep.
And number two, I owned 11 Gold's Gyms, if you remember correctly, right?
Yep.
And number three, he happened to be at the Sheraton in Columbus, Georgia, one night when I was performing. Thank God I had the balloon on, hence Triple H.
Nice. Nice.
The old balloon trick got him again.
Always. Always.
So for those at home who can't fill in the blanks, Rick, do you want to describe what the balloon trick is?
No. All they have to do is buy my DVD and listen to Hunter's speech on my Hall of Fame induction. That's all of my past.
A couple more questions, and we're going to let you get out of here, Bruce. A lot of fans are fascinated with the term gorilla position. It's like this fabled thing to wrestling fans that the guys come back through and they want to know, how do we do? And at the same time, a lot of the instruction is coming out from behind that gorilla position out into the floor for the referees and for the wrestlers. And most importantly, the commentators. Recently, a link came out that showed all the different notes from Vince about the banned words and don't say this, say that. But you sat right next to Vince in the gorilla position. Talk to us a little bit about what that is and how it evolved over time.
Well, gorilla position, I believe WCW called it the go position. It's just a position on the other side of the curtain. It's the last bastion of information you're going to get and instruction that you're going to get before you go out into the arena. What I did there was time the shows and give cues to pretty much everybody and coordinate between, again, that point with talent and the truck for production and what have you. Yeah, it's just the last bastion, man. And sitting there, Vince on the other side would sit and produce commentary, which could be entertaining in and of itself.
Oh, Bruce, you're being so politically correct today.
Well,
it's brutal. You come to that curtain, you want.
It was,
if he's not looking at you and with a thumbs up, you know something's wrong.
Oh,
Jesus.
no, the bet.
I have seen agents get murdered.
Oh, yeah.
Way ahead of my interest.
The worst one, though, was if you were a producer and like you're producing a backstage segment, and once it was finished, you would wait about 30 seconds and just pray that you wouldn't hear these words. Bruce the Gorilla. Once you walked up those steps and you got up there and you met eyes with Vince, two things would happen. He would take the headset off, set it down, take his glasses off, put them down on the table, and then whatever ash you might have had would be gone 20 seconds later. No, I've experienced that probably more than anybody.
Bruce, that's because you're good at what you do.
Oh, God.
And you were one of the few guys that had the balls to say, put it in a can without having him come look at it. Because I could remember at the time, I used to look at Ed and say, Ed, if you ever want to get anywhere in this company, make a decision on your own. I'm not going to sit here for 20 minutes waiting for Vince to come over, put on his spectacles and look at it close up, okay? Make a decision. So Bruce actually would make that move periodically. So we would stand there for a half hour. I mean, one time Bruce said to me, what was that deal that you had with the concerto you had? We were in Pittsburgh, and it was Edge and Randy going to give me these chairs, right?
Yes.
Remember that, Bruce?
Yes.
So Bruce said, get some juice. I was like a kamikaze pilot banging my head on the wall. I must have killed myself 20 times. Bruce said, Jesus Christ, you're going to be dead before you go through the curtain. I said, make the call, Bruce, let's do it.
Oh, my God. And remember, and he's having me punch him in the head. And I'm punching him in the head, and there's blood spattering. won't forget this because I was wearing a yellow shirt. And I'm hitting, and there's blood spattering all over my shirt. And I got to go home, and my wife looks at the shirt and says, "What the hell happened to you?" I thought, that's Rick.
We're Ric Flair.
That is the story we should end the show on. What a way to go out. Man,
I love working for Bruce. Let me tell you, Bruce and I have had so much fun and so much respect for each other, and we had so much respect for both Dusty and Roddy. I mean, there's a lot. Bruce is one of those guys that I see Tom all the time. Tom was my 500 free squad guy.
Yep.
He hated me, but I see Tom. And Bruce. We need to stay in touch more often. Thank you so much for coming on the show,
guys. It's an honor. Thank you so very much for thinking of me and having me on, man. I greatly appreciate it. Anytime.
This thing's going to just throw everybody else's podcast under the bus, man.
But before we let you get out of here, let's make sure people know how to get a hold of you. Of course, you're on Twitter, at Bruce Prichard on Twitter. Is there anything else we can help you promote today, Mr. Prichard?
Hey, man, just hit mainly the Twitter and Facebook, and it's Bruce Prichard on Facebook.
And there's no T in Prichard, so don't get fancy.
There is no T in Prichard.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to be invited to the Conradison when you bring Bruce in.
Okay, when we get done, I'll tell you what day it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Prichard, for joining the show today. Thank you, sir.
Bruce, make no mistake, the Seaman and I will be in the Big Apple tomorrow doing what you and I have done many times in the past.
Okay, hang on. I know you said goodbye. You said no more. Rick, do you remember the time in Vegas when you were there with the big wigs and me and Tony Schiavone pulled you away back to Caesars and we drank Stoli sea breezes all night?
Oh, God, I'd forgotten about that. What happened?
And Flair, and we took the limousine, the stretch limo that was it was Jack Petrick and somebody else, and you took their limousine.
Oh, God, that's right, yeah.
And we got so hammered, and we pull up in Caesars, and they're getting out of the taxi in front of us. And they turn around and go, "There's our limo. Hey, there's Flair." And they get a big smile on their face. And me and Tony Schiavone come rolling out of the
And the funny thing, Bruce was working for WWE then.
Yes.
Yeah, so I forgot about that. No wonder I had
right
problems with that company.
Yeah. Introduced myself, and they were like, "Oh my God!" And their faces just changed. Rick, we're having dinner at 9:00. We'd like for you to be there.
Yeah, okay. Let me take a quick shower.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
I
much.
was just on the verge of making the call. It's a good thing they showed up.
Yeah, exactly. Hey.
Could have been a lot different.
That was a good time. I got pictures of that night.
Okay, well, if I have my clothes off, don't put them on your Facebook, okay?
If he's doing the balloon trick, tweet it at the show at Wooooo Nation on
Twitter.
No, all of our times are still time. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye, Bruce. Love you, man.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Man, so how great was Bruce?
I told you he's awesome, isn't he?
I had no idea that you guys were so friendly and had such a friendship behind the scenes. I thought, well, this is kind of a WWF guy. But
No. He and I were really close friends. It's kind of funny, and I feel bad saying this, but when his wife got sick, he'd retreat. His wife had cancer really bad.
Well, I'm glad to hear that she's doing well now. That's a blessing.
She's doing great. I didn't know if I could bring it up or not, but she's doing great. But the last couple of times he disappeared from WWE was because she was in treatment. He didn't want anybody to know the severity of it. So,
well, I'm just glad we had him on the show. It wound up being a lot better than I even imagined, just because I didn't know you guys had such a friendship. And
I think that'll come out good. Don't you think so?
I think it'll be great, and we got an opportunity to kind of peek behind the curtain and see behind the scenes in WWF and the creative process. Very cool show. Thank you for having me today. This is fun every week.
Thank you for having me, man.
Well, let's do it again next week, right here on Wooooo Nation.
Woo.